Hey, how's it going, guys? Jack and Matt here with the Toasty Bros, and today we got a nice high-end build that's sponsored by DeepCool, and it is going to be under $3,000.
And as Jackson mentioned, this video is brought to you by DeepCool and their CK560 case and PQ1000M power supply. They were nice to send both over and start a little recurring series on the channel. We're gonna be doing a sponsor build each quarter, and this one right here is gonna be really nice inside this cool airflow case that DeepCool recently released. So if you're wanting an awesome PC build, definitely consider using DeepCool products like the stuff we're going to be showing here today. How we not waste any more time and dive into each individual part and how it makes up this PC build.
And to start off this build, we have this beautiful i7-11700K that's 8 cores and 16 threads of raw performance. Now, of course, we could have gone with 12th gen because we do have a 3080 Ti here, but we think 11th gen still really holds a good spot in the market due to the fact that now the 12th gen's out, DDR5 is really expensive. Getting the DDR5 motherboard, DDR5 RAM, and a DDR5 processor would probably cost you double what this costs. So we're going to be getting really similar performance having this nice K processor that we can overclock inside of this really nice Z590 Aorus Ultra motherboard. And I should probably talk about what's going to cool that i7. And to cool the i7, we have the XPG LEVANTE 360. This is a really nice 360mm ARGB liquid cooler from XPG. We actually haven't gotten to use this exact one yet, so I'm really excited to see how it looks inside of this PC case. And this motherboard right here, which we actually got from a Newegg Shuffle, is a Z590 Aorus Ultra motherboard, and it is obviously Gigabyte, and it is a really nice board. I mean, we basically have everything we want here. We actually have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth built in, all of the USB 3, 3.1 headers you could ever want. It should have USB-C on the motherboard too, but we'll find that out. But we also have like USB 3 and a bunch of other really cool stuff, and obviously lots of power connectors in case you want to do a 3090 with like an i9 or something crazy. And for RAM, we have a pretty interesting kit here. This is actually V-Color 32 gigs, and you're probably wondering, like, why do we have two different ones? Why do they look different? Well, they sell this kit at a discount because you basically have two real sticks that's 16 by 2 making 32 gigs, and then two dummy sticks. So they look the exact same once actually plugged in, and the actual different colors kind of complement themselves in some ways. Some people might hate that, and obviously we'll have some alternatives, but it is 3200 megahertz, and it's, RGB, 32 gigs. What more could you ask for?
RGB.
RGB. And for storage, we have this XPG Gamix S50 LITE, and despite it saying LITE, this is actually a Gen 4 SSD, which means we're gonna get the absolute fastest speeds available on the market right now, and a whole terabyte. That's gonna fit Warzone, and that's probably it.
Just
it's a big game, but no, in all honesty, you'll be able to fit quite a few games on this, and you shouldn't need to upgrade anytime soon.
Hi, I don't know what I'm doing here. I just showed up and was told to talk about this graphics card. This right here is the Gigabyte RTX 3080 Ti, the Vision Edition. Broaden your horizons. I'm gonna broaden my horizons with this 3080 Ti, which is absolutely an amazing card for 4K gaming. We will definitely be doing some 4K benchmarks with this graphics card. But yeah, we got this in a bundle deal on Newegg Shuffle with this motherboard, so we were able to make a really good build featuring a card that is really hard to get your hands on. And it's a kind of silver design with is that purple? It's an interesting look. Never seen this before, but I think this will look really cool in like some retro wave themed PC that we did recently. But yeah, that's pretty cool. In terms of the power supply, of course, we gotta talk about our sponsor, DeepCool. This right here, once again, the PQ1000M is a 1,000-watt power supply, fully modular. One thing to mention about these power supplies, because you're probably wondering, DeepCool makes power supplies. They actually use the same OEM as Seasonic, or Seasonic as the OEM. I think Seasonic is an OEM, but Seasonic makes some really high-end power supplies, and this one right here is no exception. We have all the ability to add whatever cables we want and make this build look nice and clean, and there are all the cables right there. So definitely consider this power supply and all the other power supplies DeepCool has to offer for your next gaming PC build. And then the CK560. This case looks really sick. It's all white. It has a mesh front that has a different little design to it. It looks like a bunch of little plus signs. It's kind of cool. Different than what other cases have on the market. Now, as you can see, when you take off this really cool panel, you see 3 ARGB fans ready to go. We will be adding some other ones from that XPG cooler as well, just to really deck this thing out with RGB. But yeah, I'm very excited to build in this case, LED button, all that sort of fun stuff. DeepCool, thanks again for sponsoring this build. Let's put it together and make it look awesome.
Alright guys, now that we have this RTX 3080 Ti gaming PC all booted up and ready to go, let's talk about a couple benchmarks real quick. Now we decided to test this PC in a couple of titles at 4K, those being Apex Legends, Halo Infinite, God of War, and Warzone. First up in Apex Legends at 4K on pretty much max settings, we averaged about 100 plus FPS. There were definitely dips below the 144 FPS mark, so this wouldn't be ideal settings to run a 140Hz 4K monitor, but if you did drop the settings a little bit, I'd imagine you could get a locked 144 FPS in a game like Apex Legends and pretty much any other esports title out there. I mean, it is a 3080 Ti with an 11th Gen i7. It's still a very awesome pairing together. Now, of course, there is 12th Gen out there, and you could go Ryzen if you really wanted to get even better results, but for the most part, we are still bottlenecked by the 3080 Ti when playing at 4K. You will see a more noticeable difference in performance if you're playing at lower resolutions like 1080p and 1440p, which would make it much more CPU dependent rather than GPU dependent. Next up in Halo Infinite at 4K on high settings, not ultra high settings, we averaged about 80 plus FPS. You could lower this down to about medium, give or take, to get a better result, but I think high is a good mix, and getting at least 60 plus FPS in Halo is a very playable experience in my opinion, and this just goes to show that not all games are going to run max settings at 144 FPS yet on a super high-end card like an RTX 3080 Ti, and once again, this could be a game as well where you could see some improvements with a slightly better CPU, but I'm still very happy with this pairing of the 11th Gen i7 and 3080 Ti. It just works very well together in most games and most scenarios. Pretty good value for money. Now the next game we're testing is a new one, God of War on ultra settings. This is the console port from the PlayStation, and we actually got 70 plus FPS. Now we did not use DLSS on ultra because I wanted to see worst case scenario, but I've heard the DLSS mode does work really well, and I've been playing this game at home recently and having a ton of fun. If you haven't played God of War because you just didn't want to buy a console just for that game, you can pick it up on PC, play it, it's a great time. And the last game we tested was Call of Duty Warzone at 4K on medium-high settings, and we ended up averaging about 90 plus FPS. There were a couple times that we did hit 100 FPS, but on average we were below 100 FPS most of the time. In recap, this PC can play 4K gaming at, well, reasonable frame rates at medium-high settings. If you want to get 100 plus FPS, you're looking at 4K low, but at that point I'd probably just pick up a 1440p 165Hz monitor or go 1080p 240Hz for a really smooth gaming experience. I do think that's still better than 4K 60, but you could be different. If you want to pick up any of the parts from today's video, link in the description down below will be affiliate links, and they will help us out. And yeah, how about I bring Jackson back in here to wrap this video up real quick.
Alright guys, we just got done benchmarking this gaming PC, and hey, inside of this DeepCool case with this DeepCool power supply, it is looking really good, it is keeping super cool, super quiet, and running really well.
If you want to pick any of the stuff up from this PC build, links in the description down below will be affiliate links, and it will help us out. And yeah, the 3080 Ti and 11th Gen i7 work really well together and could be a good option for you looking to build your next gaming rig going into 2022. So yeah, pick this thing up. Links down below.
So as always, we hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, check out our other two YouTube channels and also our twitch.tv/ToastyBros. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And we'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
And hey, if you're looking for a PC like this, or one that's even more expensive, you should check out our PC selling business. And you want one cheaper, we got you covered too.
Budget PCs, high-end PCs, gaming laptops, and a bunch of other electronics, PCBros.tech, or come in person in our store at Louisville, Kentucky. Yeah, see you guys later. Goodbye.